Hello everybody and welcome back to Cheap, Fast, Good. This is the show where we cook the same recipe 4 different ways. Cheap and fast, fast and good, good and cheap, and then finally at the end with no restrictions whatsoever. Now if you're new here to the show, we have rules for each of these categories. If you don't know what they are in the description of this video. You can check them out below. Today we're doing cheeseburgers, and I'm gonna be making cheeseburgers with this list of ingredients that you see right over here. I'm following this very particular list of ingredients because this is just my personal taste. I like this kind of recipe. This is the kind of burger that I order. And we're gonna add variations, y'all. We're gonna do some really crazy things, so just trust me, all right? Now with that out of the way, let's go shopping. So for this expedition, we're going to Target and we're gonna buy the cheapest ingredients we can find. I started off with these white hamburger buns for $1.49, this squeezable mayonnaise here for $2.99, this jar of sandwich-sized dill pickles for $2.19, one beefsteak tomato for $1.14, one head of iceberg lettuce for $1.79, one yellow onion for $1.28, a package of frozen Angus beef patties for $8.99, and because the patties are unseasoned, I got a bottle of McCormick Montreal-style steak seasoning, and then finally the last part of the puzzle, this packet of Velveeta cheese for $3.99. And with sales tax, that brings the grand total of everything we paid for to $28.52. All right, first things first, we are going to toast our buns, because even at McDonald's, they toast the buns. It is going to add a small amount of time to the whole process, but do not skip this step. Small amount of unsalted butter, buns go in. This should not take very long at all. While my buns are finishing up their toasting, I'm gonna go ahead and add a small amount of oil to my cast iron pan. This is canola oil here that I got at an Asian supermarket. For this recipe, you wanna use a neutral oil like vegetable oil, or in this case, canola oil. Do not use olive oil when cooking your hamburgers on any kind of pan. The olive oil has a strong flavor and it's gonna make your hamburger patty taste like olive oil, which is usually not what you want. All right, our hamburger buns are nice and toasted. You can see it right there. So we're gonna set those aside and we're gonna get our cast iron skillet nice and hot. One other trick that I'll show you. With my buns toasted, there's a lot of heat coming off of them, and that heat is going down into the plate where I'm storing them, and it could potentially make them soggy on one side. So I'm just gonna take a paper towel, and I'm gonna put the buns on top of that, and I'm gonna put them back on the plate like this, and that should keep that sogginess from happening. Okay, our canola oil is hot, it's beginning to shimmer. We're going to add one of our frozen hamburger patties. If I can separate them from each other, good God. Now the instructions say to cook these patties from frozen. I'm frying up my burger very hot. My stove runs hot, I'm on medium. It's definitely hot enough. I wanna get a good charred crust on the outside of this burger. Once I get a good crust on both sides, I'll turn the heat down and I'll let this burger slowly cook so that it's cooked all the way through. Well done, all the way through. This is the part of the process where you need to be patient. You don't want to disturb the burger while it's cooking. You want to let that crust form before you flip it. If you flip it prematurely, that crust is going to stick to the pan and it's going to come right off. Okay, and then with confidence, flip the burger. Flip. All right, that's not a bad crust. It could be better. It's uneven. I'm gonna let the other side go for about 3 to 4 minutes. I'm actually going to try and push down on the patty somewhat with my spatula to see if I can encourage a more even crust. Not very hard, just a little bit. This thing is steaming. My smoke alarm may go off. All right. Yeah, so that's kind of disappointing. I don't know if it's my technique or if it's these frozen hamburgers, but we're getting uneven crust. We're getting it on the outside, but it's really lacking on the middle. I'm gonna try and do what I can to really get a crust on here, but if it looks like I'm gonna burn these patties, then I'm just gonna turn the heat down and make the best with what I got. Well, that was intense. So yes, I set off the smoke detector in my house because I was cooking burger too hard. I've opened up a window that should keep it from happening again. I've also turned the heat down. My burger has somewhat of a better crust, kind of. Yeah, I mean, one side more so than the other. I'm actually gonna try and like really push this down. It might happen again. I'm gonna open up my window more, just in case it does. I think this crust on this burger is the best I can do. The heat is now down. I'm gonna cook it low and slow for the next 8 minutes or so. And this is where I add my seasoning. I need to make this clear. I did not add my seasoning before because the seasoning would burn. Now that it's been cooked and it's gonna cook slowly until the whole thing is done, now is the time to add seasoning on the outside. I'm really trying to get good coverage of seasoning on this patty. I'm like covering it with seasoning, flipping it, covering it. I really want this to stick. All right, I think that's good. We're gonna get a closer look. There it is. Here's the final step. This thing is probably gonna go for about maybe 3-4 more minutes. I'm going to add my cheese to the top of the patty. Then I'm going to cover the skillet with this lid and I'm gonna let that cook for a small amount of time. The cheese will melt, and then once that's done, we can assemble our burger. While the cheese is melting, I'm gonna go ahead and spread the mayonnaise on my hamburger bun. In this case, it's gonna be the top. There we are. Use a butter knife to spread that out. I'm gonna add a little more. I think that's good. All right, y'all, my timer has gone off. Let's check our patty. Oh, that looks beautiful. Yes. Here's how we're putting things together. This is the burger. We're gonna go ahead and put the tomato first, onion on top, pickle. This is a long pickle. I'm gonna break this pickle up into pieces. There we go, pickle's broken up. One here, one here. That might be too much. I'll bite off a piece. Better. And then finally, our lettuce. We're gonna do this side up because I think it's a little bit shinier. And we're gonna break this one up into a little bit of a smaller piece. Finally, the top, the capper. A cheeseburger made fast and cheap. Okay, so with all the excitement now done, let's try this. I'm really hoping that I cooked the burger all the way through. I'm really hoping that I don't see any pink on the inside. That is cooked all the way through, and I stopped it at just the right time because it's still very juicy. I'm not really sure it would have mattered with the frozen patty, but I could have let this patty rest for maybe 2 or 3 minutes to let the juices reincorporate. The seasoning stuck to the burger, so that's good. The cheese is good. The thing that feels lacking to me, I'm not picking up a very strong beef flavor. So the box that I purchased was Angus beef patties. It does not say whether or not this is 80-20 ground beef. I think this beef might be on the leaner side, and that's why I'm not picking up a lot of beef flavor. It's good, but it's hollow. That's the only way to describe beef that isn't fatty. It's just hollow. It's not the same. I like and appreciate fatty beef, and this is just not it. Now, I almost forgot. We do have some variation, at least one. Y'all have probably heard the rumor that a Big Mac has Thousand Island dressing, and that's the McDonald's secret sauce. That is not true. There is Thousand Island in that sauce, but there's other things as well. And so we're gonna try and do our best to make a little bit of a burger sauce using this and some of the stuff that we have around. We'll add just a little bit of this, not too much. I'm gonna add a small amount of the brine from the pickle juice in there. Kind of stir that up. That's really good already. It could use a little bit of depth. I'm gonna add a small amount of garlic powder, not a lot. Tiny bit of onion powder, not a lot. And a little bit more of the pickle brine. That is actually quite good. Wow, that's really good. Okay, let me show you all what it looks like. I don't think this is gonna be able to save this burger from the lack of beefy flavor, but it could add something that might elevate it in some way. We'll just kind of drizzle that on part of it. Now, here we go. That is good. That is good. That is really good. Wow. Wow. Hell yeah. That's good. The beef patty is still kind of lifeless, but the burger sauce mixes together with the cheese and the tomato and the onion really well. And so it just kind of boosts all that to kind of save what's lacking. Just as a rundown, I might make a formal recipe. This burger sauce is some cheap Thousand Island dressing, the cheapest I could find. A small amount of pickle brine, onion powder, garlic powder, maybe some salt in this could improve it as well, maybe some hot sauce. So if you're somebody who's making, cheap and fast burgers and you want something affordable to just slightly elevate what you make, I recommend this. We're done here. Let's move on. So obviously we need to improve the beef for our next category. I was looking at a couple of gourmet butcher shops in the area, and all the ones I could find are really far from where I live. The closest one I found was 40 minutes away, and a round trip is an hour and 20 minutes. That's just too far for me. It's too far for the rules. I did, however, find out where these butcher shops source their beef from. And I actually found that one of those places, it's called MTX Beef. They have an online store where you can buy beef directly from them. And they have, I'll put a screenshot of it, they have all steak hamburger patties, a 4-pack. So it's premium beef, it's pre-shaped. This is the holy grail of what we're looking for in this category. And the patties, a 4-pack, cost $24.99. Now, when I saw this, I was like, great, awesome. Oh my God, I can't believe I found this thing. And then I looked at the shipping cost. And the shipping cost is $33.05. So it's costing more money to ship hamburger patties to my house than it is for the hamburger patties. When I saw that, I was like, all right, I'm going to just add more beef to this. I'm not paying more for shipping to get beef to my house than the beef, all right? So I put some extra stuff in there that I'll use on my own time later. The grand total for our premium ground beef with shipping is $58. $58.04. I'm all about do it for the research, but this one hurts. This one, I have never spent so much money in my entire life for beef, for ground beef, just ground beef. A steak, a nice steak at a restaurant, yes, but ground beef hamburger patties. This beef better awaken my subconscious and let me see the Matrix, all right? It better do something amazing. That beef, okay, I ordered this beef on Halloween, which was Tuesday, and I don't think it's going to arrive to my house until the Tuesday of next week, so a whole week. I'm kind of pushing the boundaries of fast in this category, but I'm going to allow it, and I'm probably going to allow this in the future for 2 reasons. One, I really want to support small businesses. A lot of gourmet products are coming from mom and pop shops, smaller businesses, organic farms, like places that could really use the extra money, and they take long because they don't have the resources of a gigantic corporation. And I really want to support them, and if they're good, I really want to give them a shout out. And 2, even though I'm waiting for beef to arrive at my house, I'm not blocked from doing other stuff, right? I can go about my life. I could even shoot a different episode of Cheap, Fast, Good in the meantime. I might actually do that. Whereas if I'm driving a really long distance to buy something, or if I'm stuck at the grocery store, or if I'm stuck cooking, I generally can't do anything else. I am doing that one thing. This, despite the shipping time, is going to be an exception to any fast rule from here on out. The one thing that I'm not going to get premium in this category is the cheese. I don't care how bougie you are. I don't care if the cheese I bought can't legally be called cheese in certain countries. American cheese belongs on a cheeseburger, and I'm drawing a hard line in the sand on that rule. So, let's wait for this beef to arrive, and then let's go shopping. For this trip, we're going back to Central Market. First thing, I'm picking up these brioche buns for $2.99, then getting Duke's Real Mayonnaise for $4.48, picking up one organic yellow onion for $2.17, getting one organic beefsteak tomato for $2.59, getting these local spicy dill pickles for $7.29, and for the lettuce, I'm getting butter lettuce for $3.49. With tax and with the total price of our beef, that brings our grand total to $82.95. Good God. So, the beef has arrived. There's just one problem. It arrived frozen. And I could leave this in my fridge for 24 hours to let it defrost, but this is fast and good. So, what are we going to do? Well, there is a method that we can use to defrost meat quickly and safely. And here's how it goes. We're going to take this package of frozen hamburger patties. We're going to put it in a very big bowl of room temperature tap water. Then we're going to put that in the sink. Then I'm going to slightly open up the tap and let a small drizzle of water go into the bowl. I'm going to leave this meat in that bowl that's slowly overflowing for 1 hour, and then I'm going to check on it. But this should work, and this should hopefully be defrosted, thawed out in 1 hour. Now from the get-go, these buns that I got are a lot firmer than the cheap buns I got last time. When I was eating my burger, I also noticed that like all the juices from the tomato and from the burger and the lettuce, it all soaked into the buns, and as I kept eating, the whole thing was just falling apart and it was a big mess. I'm hoping that these much firmer hamburger buns will be able to hold up better in the face of all these juices that we're gonna have going on. Also, we have our hamburger patty here. I'll go ahead and get a close-up right here in this view. Obviously, this thing is not frozen, so it should hopefully take less time to cook. And I've got my window open over here and a window back there, and also Hudson is with me in the kitchen today, so I really need to make sure the smoke alarm doesn't go off in my house. But same thing as before, we're gonna toast the buns, and I'm just gonna skip ahead to when they're done. Now for the seasoning on this burger, I'm gonna stick to something very, very basic. I want the flavor of this very expensive beef to come through. So for seasoning, it's just gonna be salt, pepper, and a little bit of garlic powder. That is it. Oh yeah! You might be asking why I insist on cooking this whole burger well done all the way through. Well, that is because ground beef, you need to cook it well done all the way through as opposed to like a steak. The reason being is that most things that can make you sick live on the outside of a cut of beef. So if you fry the outside of a cut of beef, generally speaking, the inside is safe to eat. With ground beef, however, you've taken everything, including the outside, and you've ground it all up together into one mass. That means that you can't cook the outside and consider it safe. Some of that bad stuff might be inside all throughout the burger, all throughout the ground beef. So you've got to cook ground beef well done all the way. All right. All right, I flipped the burger a third time. We're getting a good crust on one side. I'm gonna let this go for another minute or two. Then I'm gonna turn the heat down and I'm gonna start seasoning. Take my salt, pepper, and garlic powder and add that to the top. All right, y'all, so here is the burger. I think this is about as good of a crust as I can get on it. Cheese goes on top, lid goes on top, and it cooks like this for 3 minutes. Ooh, look at that. And then it's gonna go right there. And here we go. A very, very expensive cheeseburger. Let's go ahead and taste this. I am very excited. Oh my God. That tastes like beef. The beef has character. It has fat. I thought I added enough salt. I think I should have added even more salt, which is kind of crazy because normally I go heavy. Clearly, I should have gone heavier, but still pretty good. I do think that there is something there that wasn't in the previous tomatoes as well. It's fresher. It tastes more refreshing. I'm not really getting a lot of flavor from the onion. I think that's probably the thing that's affected the least by price. Not a big difference in taste between cheap onion and expensive onion. The burger is holding up a lot better to the juices. It's not falling apart on me. So the buns, yes, are definitely making a difference. Okay, those pickles are bomb. Hell yeah, those pickles are really good. And the lettuce, also not really making a big difference. Lettuce, it's more, I guess it's more for decoration than anything. Not really tasting a big flavor difference, and again, I paid a lot of money for it. This beef is very good, but I want to ask myself whether or not I can't make something that tastes just as good with less expensive beef. Before we move on, I do want to try to make a burger sauce one more time, this time with some of our premium ingredients. This burger sauce has some of our Duke's mayo. It has a little bit of ketchup. And by the way, the ketchup I'm using is great value ketchup, right? It's not premium ketchup, it's just what I had in my fridge. A little bit of sweet relish. Then we mix in a small amount of sugar, less than a half of a cap of white vinegar, and then finally some black pepper. Put it on our burger, just on one corner so I can get a good bite of it. And let's see whether or not this is truly better than our Thousand Island based cheap burger sauce. You know what? Cheap burger sauce was better. That just goes to show you that, hey, you know what? More doesn't always mean more. I think we're done here. Let's go ahead and move on. So for good and cheap, I've been thinking. There's a few things in our ingredients list that I can make from scratch, right? And like it wouldn't even require a lot of specialized equipment. But just because I can spend a lot of time doing something doesn't mean I should. For good and cheap, I really have to think, what can I spend my time on that is going to make the biggest impact on the final product? And for this recipe, I can think of three things. The first, right off the bat, we can make our own pickles. So I've got a few slices of cucumber here in front of me. They've already been sliced really, really thin into chips. And because they've been sliced so thin, these could technically pickle in one day, but I'm gonna let them go for 2 days. So I've got a tiny mason jar here. Let's just go ahead and put those in. Half a cup of water, half a cup of white vinegar, 3 crushed cloves of garlic, peppercorns, I'd say, yeah, maybe about 6 of them. About the same number of mustard seeds, a tablespoon of sugar, a teaspoon of salt, 1 sprig of dill. You know what? 2 sprigs of dill. Put the lid on, shake it up, and there we are. All right, so like I said, 2 days. I'm expecting them to be pickled, but I'm still expecting them to be fresh, to still have some of that cucumber flavor. But that's done. I'm gonna put that in my fridge. What's the next thing we can do? The next thing we can do is caramelize our onions. Now I got my tiny cast iron skillet right here and a few cuttings of onions right here and a little bit of butter. This is a very easy thing to do, but it is a very time-consuming thing to do. This could take anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour. The butter goes in the pan, gets melted, the onions go in, and it cooks low and slow for a very long time until the onions get nice and brown and slightly sweet. We'll just go ahead and fast forward to when it's done. So here we go. The onions have been cooking for about 30 minutes. They are nicely dark. The butter has not burned. It's instead formed lovely milk solids that have been mixed together with the onions. This is gonna be really tasty, y'all. I'm just gonna add some salt and set it off to the side, and then these will be done. And finally, the last thing we can do. We can finally shape our own hamburger patties. We've been buying pre-shaped, pre-formed hamburger patties to save on time, but now that we're free from any time constraints, I am going to make smash burgers. Normally, you would use a burger press for this kind of thing. But we have rules in any category where cheap stuff is involved, which is that we cannot use any specialized equipment. So, for this, I'm going to be using this spatula and this potato masher to try and engineer some kind of burger press with these tools. And the goal for smash burgers is I want this burger to be flat, almost ridiculously flat and wide. The reason being is that when it cooks, that meat, those muscle fibers are gonna constrict, and so the burger's gonna get smaller, and by the time it goes on my buns, it'll look just fine. For the seasoning, I'm also sticking with salt, pepper, garlic powder, nothing else. I really wanna taste how this compares to the previous burger. This ground beef that I purchased cost me $4.99 at H-E-B, and this is 80/20 ground beef. All right, our skillet is hot. Let's go ahead and drop this in, and I'm gonna wash my hands after this. So let's push it down as best as we can. Let's really get it down on there. Getting pretty good. You wanna make sure it's even. And by the way, smash burgers are probably not going to look perfectly round. That's part of their appeal. So we're not trying to make this look nice and circular. All right, I think that's about as good as I can get. I'm gonna put these away. Actually, I'm gonna keep this one, I need it. Another reason why you want your smash burgers to be as flat as possible is because it's easier to season them that way. We've had trouble up till now getting the seasoning to stick to our burgers. But when they're nice and flat, there's more surface area for that seasoning to stick to. And if you get it super duper flat, you might even be able to get away with seasoning just one side. It's kind of crazy. Oh boy, I'm getting some stickage. Oh, but I can make it. I can make it. All right, here we go. All right, a little bit of stickage. Oh my God. That is gorgeous. Really get that salt in there. We are not going light on the seasoning. Oh man, okay. A little uneven, but the spots that did get browning look lovely. So maybe that's a thing with me. Maybe getting even browning on all sides is gonna be a struggle with me for a while. I'm gonna go ahead and turn the heat down because we are definitely close to being done. I'd say, in fact, we're probably even there. So heat's coming down. I'm gonna season this thing. So there we go. Pepper on there. Cheese goes right on top like a little blanket, and then our lid goes on top. That is gonna cook for about 2 minutes. While this cooks, I wanna go ahead and talk about our burger sauce. This is our Thousand Island-based burger sauce, but the pickle brine from this is the pickle brine I used in my own pickles, not the one that we bought at the store. All right, let's go ahead and take the cover off. Oh boy, look at that, nice and melted. And just like I said, look at that. That's almost the perfect size. So we have my own pickles right here, 3 of them. And I love the color. They still look like cucumbers, but the color is starting to fade just a little bit, but they look so fresh. For the caramelized onions, you know, when these were done cooking, they definitely look a little bit darker than I would have liked. So this is a note for next time. I'm gonna pull them off a little bit sooner than I did this time. But I did taste these, and they do taste wonderful. Bun on top, a cheap, affordable burger that we have spent a lot of time creating. So we're gonna try it on its own first, no burger sauce. And what I'm trying to see here is how this compares to our previous category. Does spending a lot of time and doing all the things that we did differently make a burger that's as good as the one before? Let's find out. Okay. Oh, that is good. That is good. Lovely char, much more char on this than any other patty we've had so far. Nice and crispy. Salt, pepper, garlic powder. Stuck to that patty so well. The pickles are nice, but if I'm being honest, I think I like store-bought pickles better. The caramelized onions are good, but they're too cooked. I miss the sharpness of the onion. When you caramelize onions, you get rid of a lot of that sharpness. You cook a lot of it out. I think that I'm gonna make caramelized onions again, and I'm gonna make more of them, a lot more of them. I am gonna pull them off the heat earlier. Now, final thoughts on just the burger. It is good, but our expensive burgers from before had a lot more fat. I mean, when I was cooking it in the pan, it was like full on the bottom, covered completely from edge to edge with a layer of beef fat. I'm guessing that our expensive patties may have been like a 70-30 fat ratio, maybe even more, I don't know. I thought 80-20 would be enough fat for me, but I want an even fattier burger when I move on to the next level. But with that said, let's go ahead and try this burger with our burger sauce. Oh, that's good. Kind of reminds me of In-N-Out. It's not quite animal style, but it's close. If I had to call a winner at this point, our super duper expensive burger is in the lead. This is a close second though, but we're not done yet. We gotta go crazy in our next round, so let's go. All right, y'all, so we are gonna make our own hamburger buns and I am in for a late night. It is 7 p.m. and this process may take us 3 hours, maybe 3.5 hours. So I'm going to bed late. We're doing this for the sake of making the ultimate hamburger. Hudson has decided to come around. You can probably see him there. He's very curious. So I got this recipe from Guga. I won't give you exact measurements for what's here. I'll link the video in the description. You can go check it out yourself. We have flour, salt, sugar, yeast, whole milk powder, butter, water will be added, and then I am gonna add my own little twist to this. I'm gonna try and do like a little bit of a twist on Hawaiian sweet buns by adding just a little bit of pineapple juice. I want a slightly sweet hamburger bun, but not an overpoweringly sweet hamburger bun. First step of the process is to add the dry ingredients to the bowl. So here goes our flour. Then we're gonna add in our sugar and salt. We're gonna add in our yeast. We're gonna add in our whole milk powder. Whole milk powder. Not skim milk, not non-fat. And because my big whisk is broken, I only have my little whisk, so let's go. Just mixing that together as best as I can. It's doing a good job. Let's add our wet ingredients. So for this, I have some butter. I'm gonna add that to the bowl. 1 egg. For the water, I have 140 grams of slightly above lukewarm water. I'm gonna add 80 grams of cold pineapple juice to it and stop when we've hit 220. Right on the dot. All right, cool. Let's add that to the bowl. And I have to do this. Okay, waste not, want not. All right, wet ingredients in the mixer. Raise it up and set this on speed 3 for 3 minutes. All right, that didn't take very long at all for it to have a tough time. Let's go ahead and lower the bowl. Scrape everything that we can off. We're gonna mix it up a little bit with our hands and then we're gonna change this out for the dough hook. All right, so we have a shaggy and slightly sticky dough. I'm gonna go ahead and put that off to the side. Put the dough hook on. Put the ball back in the bowl. Same thing, speed 3 minutes. Oh. Okay, we're done. Lower this. Now, I got a big metal bowl here. All right, now we want to quickly make this into a ball. It is somewhat sticky, so I want to move fast. All right, I'd say this is about a good shape. Now, this goes into our metal bowl. Then we take our dough ball and we coat it in the olive oil we put inside our bowl. But I'll go ahead and move it over here so the GoPro can get a good image. That's what it looks like. You can see how much olive oil is in that. There is no such thing in my book as too much olive oil. All right, I'd say that is about good for me. Now the next step, cover it in plastic, set it to the side for 2 hours and let it double in size on its own. Okay, so it did not take a full 2 hours for this dough to double in size. You can see it right here. It has become very, very big. And our next goal is going to be to take it out of this bowl. Oh my gosh, it is quite a wet dough. Put that aside. Kind of make it back into a ball again. I'm not sure how this is gonna turn out. It's a little bit wrinkly. Kind of looks a little bit like a, I don't know, some disgusting version of a brain. But The next thing that we need to do is to cut this into 6 equal-sized pieces. So, I got my fancy knife here. Let's do that. Oh yeah. This may be a little bit misshapen. It's not gonna be perfect, but you know what? First time doing this, so long as it tastes good and it roughly resembles a hamburger bun. All right, that is roughly 6 equal-sized pieces. Now we have to shape them nicely into balls. Let's see if we can work it on the cutting board. Hey, you know what? This may turn out okay after all. Now I'm gonna go ahead and set this down on this baking sheet with this silicone mat. So after working it with my hands for a little while, this is what I have. Some of them are misshapen, some are bigger than others, but this is what we have, and this is what we're gonna move forward with. But now it's pretty simple. We're gonna cover these with plastic again, and we're gonna let them rise even more for 1 more hour. After that, they're gonna bake. They have risen. And now we're taking the plastic off. And I have a little bit of egg wash here. I'm just gonna go ahead and brush these. I think this guy right here is gonna be our winner. That one looks the best out of all of these. This one right here is gonna win the award for being the biggest one. We haven't been doing sesame seed buns up until now, but I have sesame seeds, so we might as well do it. So we'll give these each a little bit of a sprinkling on top. And now, these are gonna bake at 425 for maybe 20 minutes. We're gonna keep an eye on them. All right, so the buns are done. I pulled them out a little bit just before 20 minutes, and I think they went a little bit too long. They're kind of a little bit crusty on the outside, not so much as like crusty bread, but I think maybe about 5 minutes sooner would have been like the perfect time because they're not like pillowy soft. That said, I have not tasted them yet, so let's see. Here we are. This is the moment of truth. Oh, I can taste the pineapple. It's not strong and it's not overly sweet, which is what I was going for. I think this is going to be our winner here. Because I think this is the ideal shape. It's not too big, it's not too small. I'm gonna wrap this guy up in plastic and put him in the cupboard for tomorrow when we're gonna do our next big thing. So, bit of an update. As you can see, these are not the same hamburger buns I made last night. This morning, I made a new batch. A better batch, I would say. The previous batch was good. The taste was amazing, but the texture was so dense. It reminded me of biscuits, which is not bad, but it's not hamburger buns. So I'm gonna freeze that previous batch. I'm gonna use them for sandwiches. I'll probably like throw in some eggs and cheese. It's gonna be banging, all right? But I made a new batch this morning, and I made some modifications to the recipe that I think have turned out real well. I mean, for one, the color on these things is just incredible. It's a lot better than the last one. What I changed was, I don't know if my bread mixer is just a beast, but I think it was going too fast. So I greatly decreased the speed at which it was mixing and kneading with the dough hook. And for the dough hook, I think I only ran it for like 30 seconds to a minute, and then I just kneaded the dough by hand afterwards. Second thing I changed was I let the dough rise for another hour. So 2.5 hours at the beginning and then 1.5 hours after I had sliced them up into 6 pieces. So 4 hours of total rise time as compared to 3. And the last thing I changed was I baked these at 350 instead of 425, which allowed me to get a nice color on the outside, also keep watch on them, and I think they have a much better golden color as a result. If there's one thing that I would like to be different, it's that I don't think these are very tall. I would like them to be taller. I mean, looking at this could be like 1/2 of a hamburger bun. Part of that could also be on my shaping technique, but I'm not making a third batch, y'all. This is what we gotta use. Now, I have not yet tried these, so let me go ahead and pick, I think this one right here, and let me take a munch. Yes. Fluffier on the inside. When we slice this up and toast it, it's gonna be awesome. Let's add butter. All right, a small little bit of unsalted butter there. That is incredible how much that changes things. Oh, that's so good. I'll end this with one final thing. never be afraid to change a recipe on your own. I followed Guga's recipe to the T, and I ended up with a product that, while tasting good, was not satisfactory for my needs. So I adjusted things. I changed what my intuition and what my gut told me to change, and I think I got a better product as a result. So all that said, I'm gonna go ahead and take the ones that I'm not gonna use, put them in the freezer, set this guy aside so we can use him later, and then we can finally move on to grinding our own beef. This is a chuck roast. This is a picanha. This is a breaking knife. This is a petty knife. Now this beef came from Porter Road. It's a butcher shop, I believe, in Kentucky. I'll verify and I'll put the information on this video. This beef has also been dry aged, so it will taste incredible. And the thing about a picanha is that sitting on top of the lean meat is a gigantic layer of fat. The goal is to end up with a 30 to 70 beef fat ratio in our final mix. We are going for a very, very fatty burger. I'm gonna chop these up into tiny cubes, and with the power of editing, and here we are. I have 1,600 grams of lean beef right over here, and then I have 700 grams of fat. This stuff was not hard to get with that picanha cut. That roughly makes a 70 to 30 ratio. This needs to go in the freezer for about 30 minutes to an hour to firm up. It's very important that it's firm and cold before it goes into the grinder, or else bad stuff will happen. Also, the bits of the grinder that also grind up the meat have also been in the freezer for like 4 hours. Everything needs to be cold. Not rock hard frozen cold, but cold. Hopefully it stays cold enough to where we can make 3 passes on the ground beef. Once to get it coarse, and the other 2 to get it to the texture we want. All right. Meat is out. Turn this bad boy on. And here we go. Woo! And we are done. And this is the ground beef we've ended up with on our coarse grind. Now, I'm gonna go ahead and change this out for a smaller plate, and we're gonna run this through 2 more times. Hopefully by the end, we will have the consistency of ground beef that we're looking for. I had to pivot. Well, I've been doing that a lot this episode, but when I tried to grind up the beef on the smaller plate, what came out was absolute mush. It was not appetizing at all. So I took the ground beef, put it back in the freezer for another 30 minutes, and I changed out the plate for the bigger one, and I just ran it through 1 more time, and that is it. We're not doing it anymore. This is the ground beef we've ended up with. I think it has a nice texture. It might be a little bit mushy, but we are done. So I'm gonna go ahead and shape some patties, and then we can move over to the stove, and we are almost done with this. We just have 1 more thing we need to do. Let's talk about caramelizing these onions. So here is my plan. I'm going to cook a large amount of onions in butter, low and slow, for 15 minutes. Then at 15 minutes, I'm gonna add a smaller amount of onions and cook that with everything for 5 minutes. At the 20-minute mark, I'm gonna take everything out, and hopefully by the end, we will have a nice mixture of browned onions with some onions that have been lightly cooked but still have some of their onion flavor. And this is it. Finally, I don't think I've ever worked so hard for anything in my entire life. Let's give a brief rundown of everything that's gonna go into the final cheeseburger once and for all. We have our own custom-made hamburger buns that I have sliced right here. I'm gonna butter them with fancier than normal butter. I have caramelized onions. Now the onions I bought were not organic because, at least to me, the organic onion and the regular onion didn't taste any difference. So bought a regular onion and caramelized it. The tomato, we're also using a regular tomato because while there was a difference in taste between the organic tomato and the other one, it wasn't enough to justify the extra cost or the extra drive. The lettuce, iceberg lettuce, because our fancier lettuce really didn't taste any different and iceberg lettuce has more crunch. Our pickles are going to be the fancier pickles from the fast and good category. I really liked those and they had a little bit of spiciness to it, which I think is going to go great with everything we've got here. We're also going to do burger sauce, but that's going to be our cheaper burger sauce with the super duper cheap Thousand Island dressing, the pickle brine, the garlic powder, the onion powder, and a little bit of black pepper. Mayonnaise. Duke's mayonnaise. This does taste slightly better than the cheaper mayonnaise, but not by much. Yet at the same time, I have a lot of it, so I gotta use it. And then finally, the star of the show, 2 ground up hamburger patties. Now you might be saying, wait a minute, you didn't do 2 before. And you're right, I did not do 2 before. I personally did not get very full in the last burger that we made, so we're doing a double cheeseburger. Hey y'all, this is Editing Matt from the future, here to interject very briefly on this video. I'm also getting over a cold, so I sound sniffly and I might cough, and so you might see some edits. So if you were watching closely, you can see that I had that raw beef on a blue plate. And I was so exhausted when I filmed this video that I ended up reusing that same blue plate to assemble my burger. That is a cooking 101 sin right there. You never have the same cookware touch both raw meat and prepared foods. Now, thankfully, I was fine. Nothing bad happened to me. I didn't end up getting sick, but it was obviously something I wasn't proud of, and I realized my mistake right after filming. I just wanted to interject with this clip because I didn't want people screaming at me the entire time while watching, and because this mistake actually did inspire me to buy more prepware so that I don't have this thing happen again. I mean, I already have some prepware that's devoted towards raw meat. For example, the red cutting board that I use to chop up the beef that I grind up, that red cutting board is solely for raw meat. It's never used for anything else. But obviously, this mistake has shown me that I need more prepware devoted specifically towards raw materials that has to be color-coded. So that's what I'm going to do in the future. And with that said, back to the video. And as you might have seen, I've also upgraded the equipment. I have a griddle that we're gonna use. We're gonna toast buns on this side and we're gonna cook burgers on this side. As part of our upgrade, we're also gonna be using a burger press. All right, butter's been melted, so buns go in. Now, with the glove this time, let's go ahead and add our hamburger patties. I wanna give them a good amount of space because we're gonna squish them down by a lot. And then here we go, burger press. All right, let's go ahead and season these burgers up. Let's get them really covered in this salt. Yeah, that's what I want. Same thing for you. Also gonna go ahead and put the garlic powder on them. All right, I think it's time for these burgers to get flipped. Now we gotta really work the spatula underneath them because this is new cookware and it does tend to stick for the first couple times when using it. And I cannot lose any of this char, so we're really gonna be working it underneath. Flip. All right, we lost a little bit. We might lose a little bit of this one too. Let's see. Oh my God, that is beautiful. All right. How are these buns looking? All right, this one's done. How's this bun looking? I'd say that's done too. All right, buns are done. So let's go ahead and add a lot of salt there. A lot of salt there as well. Do not go light on the seasoning. It will come off naturally as things cook. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and turn these burgers. Oh, lost a piece. A little bit less char on this side, but you know what? I think one side is more than enough to make up for it, and we've already cooked them through. So let's go ahead and add our black pepper. I'm also gonna turn the heat completely off, because I think these guys are done. And now, we don't have a lid we can use to cover these burgers. But I'm just gonna trust the residual heat to melt the cheese. So, cheese on this guy. There we go. Cheese on this guy. There we go. All right, put mayonnaise on our top bun. These buns are sturdy. Seems like this guy's pretty melted. This guy's having a little bit of a hard time. So you know what we'll do? We're just gonna go ahead and take this guy and put him right on top. And I'd say this is about as melted as we can hope to get. So we'll go ahead and put our double cheeseburger. Oh, and this guy, let's not forget about him. Where should he go? Let's see if we can just gently kind of tuck him in underneath there. You know what? Nope, I can't do it. So I'm just gonna eat that separately. We are done cooking. Oh man, I definitely made the right call with these. Look at these. These are amazing. All right, then we'll go ahead, put our slices tomato on it, put our pickles down, iceberg lettuce on top, put her on top, and there she is. As many things as we could custom make as possible in this burger. All right, y'all. Let me try this random piece that fell off right over here. See what we get. Oh my God. Oh my God, I just drooled. That's just beef. Let's try hamburger. Double cheeseburger. You know, I said the bun was kind of short, but now that it's been assembled, I don't have a problem with it anymore. This is a perfect size. All right, but here we go. Burger time. I need to try and get everything in one mouthful. Whoa, this is a family-friendly channel, but I'd be cursing so much right now if it was just me. As much as I have suffered over the past week and made mistakes and had to redo things and had to pivot, if this is what it leads up to, do it. We need to add burger sauce. So, gonna take a big old spoonful of it. I'm gonna drizzle it right on top. And you can kind of see it's coming out, you know? It's there. So let's get this too. I am speechless, while also simultaneously breathing a sigh of relief that all of it is over. What have I learned throughout this whole process? Well, in terms of vegetables, I have learned that organic really doesn't offer that much, at least in this case, nor does fancy, right? The pickles, okay, yeah, but like lettuce, tomato, onion, neither of those things, their more expensive versions, were worth it. And I would even go so far as to say that of the store-bought buns that we got, I think the cheaper versions were also fine. The biggest thing that matters in this category is the beef. If you need to go all out on something, go all out on the beef. That's where it's gonna matter the most. That's where the money is gonna matter the most. And I'd say that's where the effort is gonna matter the most. Thank you all so much for watching. I have no idea how long this episode's gonna be when I edit it all together after all of the craziness we've been through. But if you've been here since the beginning, I appreciate you. Leave your name in the comments and say that you were here through this whole journey. You're my best friend now. Not really, but maybe. Almost. JK. And of course, if you enjoy this content, please leave a comment on this video. Please like, please subscribe, please ring the bell. And with all that said, thank you so much for watching. Go cook something amazing, and I will see you next time. Woo!